Patriarchy is like shaking right now. They're like, damn, I can't beat my wife no more. Damn, I can't have 4 secret wives around the block.
The government conspires to put a lot of innocent black men in jail on fallacious charges. Diddy is not one of those men.
Y'all really are white supremacy's most valuable puppets.
This right-wing person is just holding black people accountable. You literally sound like a slave to me.
Black men become the biggest conspiracy theorists when their heroes get attacked. Immediate, they turn to MAGA 3000.
And we saw what happened to Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels was stepping into territory where he was about to purchase mics for every nigga that we know that wants to disrespect women all around the world.
Hello, beautiful black people. Let me tell you why I've convened you today. I want to talk about Diddy. I also want to talk about OJ and Caitlin Clark and some other things, but it really depends on what time we have after we unpack Diddy. So, yeah, I'm very of the camp that we all know what Diddy is and that whatever they say Diddy did. But also, now that there's a criminal case, I have different and more nuanced opinions on how the criminal case is being handled and in the court of public opinion. That's why I brought all y'all to talk about the different angles. But specifically, I'm going to pass the wheel to Natalie because Natalie had done she read the documents, okay? She read the documents, did more of a deep dive, okay? Like, we're both lawyers, but that's the lawyer that read the files. So,
She did try.
Yeah. So tell us, Natalie.
Yeah, so I like you said, Olay, I read the files. I went 70 something pages, I think, and then it became 90 something pages, something like that. It's a ridiculously long lawsuit. So right now we don't have any criminal indictment. We just know that he's being investigated by the feds across multiple jurisdictions, so across multiple states by the federal government, because his homes in LA, Miami, and New York were raided by the federal government. So we know that they're investigating him. But that's based on several lawsuits that have been filed by several individuals that have accused him of things including sex trafficking, rape, drugging, and then obviously the shady financial dealings that he's been known for since the inception of his career. The one that's really caught people's attention, or I guess the first one being the Cassie lawsuit, which had an element of sex trafficking to it. That lawsuit was settled in one day from the time that it was filed, which I said is record breaking. And then you had Lil Rod's lawsuit that was filed on the heels of that, incorporating a lot of references from the Cassie lawsuit, but then also making additional allegations. The parts that have been the most salacious and that the media has paid the most attention to are the gay things, right? That's what everyone seems to be most interested in, but that's really not what is at issue here, because consensual gay sex is not a crime. It's not a civil tort. Nor is, according to Lil Rod, he was trying to groom him into homosexuality. That's not really something, someone hitting on you, and then if they stop after you say no, is not really a civil action. But continuing to have sexual overtures to someone who does not want to have sex with you is obviously a problem. And so it's wide ranging in that it makes several allegations that between the first lawsuit and the amended lawsuit are clear were not necessarily true, but some which have not yet been proven and will have to be proven in a court of law, because it doesn't seem like Diddy's going to settle this one. So I don't know what particular questions you have about it, but that's kind of an overview of what I came across.
It's crazy because it feels like that confirms a lot more that I feel like a lot of the media's discussion, like how we're discussing the case and the amount of hoopla around the Diddy case, is influencing the federal government getting involved. Like, you know what I mean? It seems like they weren't independently investigating Diddy or had any evidence or anything, but they're looking into and paying a lot of attention to his civil lawsuits because of the amount of media attention. And now they're on a fishing expedition, essentially.
Yes. So what is in Cassie's lawsuit, I think, should have given law enforcement more of a pause. And we don't really know when they started their investigation, because they don't have to disclose that until they start to take public actions. But the the Cassie lawsuit was alleging that he was moving her across state lines and coercing her to have sex with prostitutes, and then carrying guns and drugs across state lines, which I think would be indicative of different types of trafficking. And so that would have, and that would have summoned the federal government in most cases. However, after it settled, it kind of died down, and then here comes Lil Rod. The interesting thing is that I think Lil Rod could have potentially swung a double-edged sword for himself, because a lot of his allegations were that he was doing things on the behest of Diddy. Like, he was soliciting prostitutes, and Diddy wasn't checking to see if these girls were underage or adults or not. But it's like he was saying that he was the one that was getting the prostitutes. So it's just like, well, then you weren't checking to see if they were underage or not, which is interesting that you would put that in a filing, that Diddy was like, doing all these different type of drugs and bringing them in airplanes and across state lines. That's obviously going to make the federal government's ears perk up. But I think it's the salaciousness that got everybody interested in it that then made the federal government go and look at the case. Because there were 3 separate lawsuits before Lil Rod. There was Cassie, there was the girl that said she was a teenager in the 90s and she was flown from one state to the other, where she was sexually assaulted by Diddy and 2 other men. And then there was the girl that said that she went to the studio, that Diddy came and picked her up, and then he filmed her and sent out revenge porn. All 3 of those allegations should be highly concerning. And last year there was a lawsuit that settled kind of quietly, and again should have been concerning. So it's very interesting that once there's the stain of homosexuality, that's when the federal government was like, oh, let's look at this. So there's been allegations for decades about Diddy. It's very interesting that it's happening now.
I think you pointed out a lot of different things. And I think people, what I'm seeing online, which you pointed out a really great point, people's focus is on the gay part of it or whatever. They want to, make that expand, have those type of conversations. And they're making, when people are talking about Diddy, no Diddy, people have replaced pause with, yeah, no Diddy, or whatever the case may be. So I don't like that. That's the part that they're focusing on, when all the points that you just talked about, you read it for all of us. And so this man can be allegedly, a rapist, or sexually, he's charged or can be charged of sexually assaulting somebody, holding people. This man is evil, but then I focus on that part of it. And the second part of it is how everybody is online having conversations, especially in those spaces and places that we've already talked about on this platform, Shade Room and them. They'll say, this black man, right? This is what they're focused on. This black man they're trying to bring down. And here go black people going up against black people. And I hate that talking point, because we're not looking at are the things that you just named, all these things that you just talked about, what he's basically can be charged with, what he's done, what people's testimonies. But people don't want to talk about that part of it, which makes it true. They want to focus on us talking about this black man and this black man going down, and Diddy was about to buy a company, conspiracy, and see because he wanted to buy this drink company, this is what's happened. To focus. Are y'all not seeing what's happening to black men? No. Are you not seeing what the allegations are? What can be true? People's testimonies. Are we not seeing that? And we can call a thing. Yes, he happens to be black, and yes, he may have done these things. So can we focus on that right now? And I think that's the problem that I'm having with this whole Diddy thing.
So when you look at the totality of the lawsuits, all of the victims are black people, the alleged victims of these things. They're black people, and they're black men and black women. But you cannot, and this is it's a microcosm of an overall issue within the black community in America, which is what I can really speak to. And that is that you will have a man in a position of authority, and because of the image of blackness is so tied to patriarchy and capitalism as, reaching the American dream, that's someone that has reached that pinnacle. We don't want to tear them down because they are the example of us. And Diddy is, if we tear down Diddy, then who else is going to make it, kind of, sort of, not really considering the fact that he had to harm a lot of people to get to where he is. And the victims of his abuse allegedly are Black men and women, financial abuse and sexual abuse.
I think we like the idea of like Black excellence so much that we like it at the expense of Black people, because a point my boy Masai had made to me was that if we truly cared about like Black people and how Black people are treated, Diddy would have been a character that we wouldn't have been celebrating long before this. Because if you forget whether we know anything about all of these allegations, we know as a culture, we know that Diddy has been exploiting Black artists for decades. He's known for that. We call it the Diddy curse. We know what it is. So we know that. And
Yes.
yet this is a man we've continued to celebrate. So that in and of itself says what we as a community are willing to allow to be done to Black people in the name of Black excellence, even if it's just that one person at the expense of many. And then I think the second point that really evidences that is when Cassie, who we know Cassie, we don't even like the other people in the lawsuits are not even figures we know, but we know Cassie, we know that relationship. We had Kid Cudi, other people confirm it. This was settled within a day, and there was so much unwillingness to believe that he's done those things. But the minute a man makes salacious or makes anything that allows people to say he's gay and they can mock them about that, then now you believe it. The man makes all these allegations, even in a complaint that actually, in that case, if that's the one with the photos, a bunch of different things that is obviously salacious for media attention. There were discrepancies that have been cleared up by some of the people that were mentioned in the complaint. So there's every reason to actually question that one. No questioning. You take all that at face value because it's better for you to mock and say Diddy's gay, but you wouldn't listen to the woman. So
yeah, that's exactly right. And that connects directly to this whole weird Hollywood conspiracy theory about gay people and stuff like that, and how they're having these weird things in the background, and people eat that up. It's easier to believe that than actually the exploitation of other people, especially women. And that's the first thing people jump to. That is the main thing that you hear on the internet and your friend groups and everything is about Diddy doing gay things. I'm like, wait a minute. Diddy's a terrible person for various reasons. And this is the thing that we're focusing on. Like, really?
No, it's and then the people that are supporting it, Tyrese, why are you checking in, baby? Because I don't understand. Like you and he makes these long soliloquies about how great this man is, Diddy is, that all these other people, and here they are, they're celebrities, but they're saying that Diddy's such a great guy, but there are also other celebrities that they want to quiet, but that are also having the same testimonies as other people, as Cassie, and they're saying like, this man has done this man has put me in positions and places, and they don't want to hear those stories yet. Tyrese comes out here and says how Diddy is such a great man and he's done this for me. He may have been good to you, but so many other people have witnessed and experienced him differently. Your favorite person can be a bad person to other people. We can say that.
Yeah. I think that I don't think Tyrese is well. So we can... I think there's something going on there outside of this. But also, this is the way that patriarchal violence functions. The same reason why P. Diddy is able to get the love and support from Black people, Black women, the Black community in general, is the same reason why O.J. Simpson was able to do it after he damn near allegedly, or they say he didn't, beheaded a woman. The same reason why a pastor or a preacher who could be doing things in the church, in a Baptist church, gets to get away with it. The same reason why Andre Dickens gets to get away with it in Atlanta. Like, all of these systems of oppressions are, as we know, like everybody on the call knows, they're all interlocked. But the way that patriarchal violence and the way that race is used, especially for Black people, is so sick. It's like during the Reagan era with Black excellence and Black wealth, this propagandized, nasty, it's just sick the way that we are manipulated into protecting the patriarchs of our community when they are doing really horrible, abusive things.
No, that's real. That made That makes me think of the amount of Black people that I've seen since Eric Adams' interview be like, "Oh, she was disrespectful to him." Da 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 da. And I'm like, it's crazy how I could tell you that a man is actively over policing Black people, getting Black people killed pre-trial, excusing police like murder of Black people. He could have his back to me, screaming over me, talking to me like I'm a child, saying this the next thing, and somehow you think, oh, I don't like him, but bootlick, like, you know what I mean? Oh, he's a leader, he's a this, he's a that, and I'm like, boy, it really has us in a fucking chokehold, son. Like, we really like to protect power at the expense of us, while someone's telling you it is hurting us.
Yeah,
it's so nuts. It's like the comments are like, he's your like damn daddy, like. It's wild, but that is the way that people react especially when you're talking to a Black man with a perceived amount of power. They're like, please don't, he's our king, our God. It doesn't matter what he's done.
Yeah.
And even if they can acknowledge, it's funny because the same people can acknowledge that this person has done this thing that is wrong, right?
Yeah.
But when a Black woman is in this space, but when a Black woman is in this space, having the conversation, leading the conversation, actually having the audacity to hold this person accountable, and do their job with their expertise, they're going to be like, now pipe down. And that's what I saw, not only with you, Olay. I did see that in the interview. That's one of the first things that I saw was a disrespect. And they were like, well, he may have done those things, but Olay, he's the mayor. Like, you're talking to the mayor, and your Black woman is showing. Please, like, turn it down. But even with Cassie speaking up, it's like, Diddy may have did those things, but it's Diddy we're talking about. This is Diddy. Yeah, like, be quiet. Why are you coming? Here it goes. Why believe women? Why, she's coming out now. He may have done these things to other people, but here go Cassie. Why did she let this time pass to speak her truth? She only wanted the money. Now that it's settled, here it just shows that she only wanted a coin in this moment. I'm like, well, did y'all not hear what Kid Cudi said? So we're going to skip around how dangerous this man can be. Are we going to skip those things? Are we not going to?
The goalposts will always move, because she pursued criminal charges. They'd see, look at her trying to send a Black man to jail, and then she pursued civil suits. Oh, look, she only want money. If she hadn't pursued anything and just told her story, they'd have been like, look at her clout chasing.
So I want to. Can I do a comparison here on the facts? Because what you guys are bringing up is making my brain percolate, because I've read both of those lawsuits and kind of compared them side by side in a live stream. And Cassie said things that were verifiable. So, for example, Diddy beat me in a hotel room and he dragged me in the hallway, and there was video footage of it. And it's our information and belief that Diddy is in possession of the video footage, because we know he paid the hotel to get the video footage. And so in the discovery process, we're going to want to get the video footage. We have witnesses who will testify that they observed Diddy physically assault Cassie. We have the witness of Kid Cudi himself in the lawsuit. They said he himself will say that Diddy blew up his car because when they were on a break, Cassie was dating Kid Cudi, which is an extreme form of violence, of domestic violence, to attack the person that your person is trying to move on with. Like, that is I don't know how many times I've seen cases where that happens, that type of violence, right? It's very common. It's a part of the cycle of violence. It's a big problem. Verifiable. Lil Rod, on the other hand, says Diddy tried to groom me into homosexuality by showing me videos of Stevie J having gay sex. It's not even true. That's not even Stevie J in the video. It's an actual gay male porn star in the video, right? Like, that's not him. Verifiably untrue. Oh, another thing that I think Diddy's representatives had come out with. Oh, Diddy was doing this in this location. Diddy wasn't even in that location when those things happened. Now, that's not to say that some of his allegations are not true, but some of his allegations are verifiably untrue. Now, what's the response to Cassie, where everything she said was verifiable and Diddy settled it the next day? She's a liar. She's clout chasing. That's what she wanted to do. She wanted to have sex with those men and those freak offs. She wanted to take those drugs because she wanted the clout, and now she just wants money. What is the response to Lil Rod? He's basically a hero. He's brave for exposing the industry, right? It's not seen that he just wants money. or that this is really a contract dispute that he's adding a little extra salt into in order to get the attention, he is seen as this good guy. So there is a difference in the response from the public.
Because that's the only thing that you're allowed. That's the only thing that they find okay to bring down a black man for, and it's homosexuality. That's the only thing that gets a pass. That's really what it is. It's like anything else you accuse it is like none of that. But by you know why? Because he becomes a man they can't emulate. What they like is the idea. They like the idea of this really powerful, rich black man that's able to do it whatever with women and be able to have people under their control and blah, blah. But they don't like the gay. That immediately that knocks him off the pedestal in their mind, and they're willing, you know what I mean? They're willing to sing that condemnation song.
Right.
Yeah.
And this reminds me, I would never forget when this happened, when Jay-Z was on Twitter Spaces, X Spaces, whatever you call it. And he got mad at people for calling him a black capitalist and going in on him or whatever. And then he was just like, you can't do that. They're trying to shut me down. They're just making up new words. Making up new words. What are you talking about? And then there was people defending him and stuff like that. Well, he's different. How so? Please. I'll wait for your dissertation. Please let me know how this is any different. But people are willing to defend it because it has a black face on it. Even in that moment, we could talk about these different types of capitalists. We could talk about white capitalists and stuff like that. Then when it comes to black ones, hold on, wait. He's different. No, he's not. What are you talking about?
Because a lot of us aren't against the system. Like a lot of us are against like our place in the hierarchy, like in the structure, right? Like the issue is not capitalism. The issue is how like black people have not been able to excel under capitalism. Like that's why they say things like black capitalism as though it's any fucking different, any less exploitative or anything. Like that's capitalism. Like just black people doing it.
I think though it also speaks to toxic masculinity and like homophobia within the black community. Because it's like, man, some of the people that I've talked to and like had conversations with, like just over the years, they would rather shoot their mama in the face if it meant that they weren't gonna get called gay by one of their homies, like dead ass. And it's just like, you see with this Diddy stuff, it's like they're going straight towards, he's gay, he's bi. Like, look at all the other shit, and then like the gays at the bottom is like they're only focused on what's at the bottom of the fucking list. It's like, but we'll focus on all this shit right here. Like he's like objectively horrible person, but like you only focus on the gay part. It's weird.
Legally speaking, gay is not even on the list, right? And that's what really annoys me about Lil Rod's lawsuit is that that's not actionable. Like I do not care if Diddy likes to have consensual sex with men and women. I do not care. I don't care if he liked you and he was just like, hey, I like you. I care if he physically touches you against your will. I care if he doesn't desist after you tell him no. But a lot of the complaints just literally had to do with, I observed him engaging in gay activities and that hurt my feelings. That's what a lot of the complaints were. It wasn't even things that, not always, but it really wasn't things that Diddy had done to him. It was like, and then I saw him do this, and then I saw him do that. And that was him trying to get me to be gay because I was a musical genius and I grew up in the church. Why is this in a lawsuit? You know? So that just lets me know that our priorities are all messed up. It's okay to drug people. It's okay to traffic people. It's okay to abuse your girlfriend. But heaven forbid you observe somebody do something gay. Now it needs to be a lawsuit and it needs to be, you know, a think piece, you know?
And I wish people were going to engage in like any kind of like helpful analysis about the Diddy case, or in a way that if they weren't going to talk about him being gay or focus on anything, if they actually wanted to talk about the case or what they think is wrong, I would be more concerned with like the larger implications, right? The idea that like if black people, if black pop culture, black culture, or the black community is discussing something in open, like discussing something in-house, the feds are paying attention to it and deciding they're going to make that their business, right? That is more interesting to me. Or why like us being so wrapped up in the sensationalism of what's happening to Diddy, and like we don't really stop to address this militarized force they used on some warrants to raid the homes, like whether or not that was necessary and what that means. Like there are things about the Diddy case that to me show the ultimate problem about the legal system and the criminal system, and they could discuss that if they wanted to have their conversation about how Black men are treated or something that was unfair or that has implications for everybody else. But they're not talking about that because they like the sensationalism and the fun. So they don't have any problem with the militarized raid because it's like, woo, Diddy house getting raided. You see that shit on TMZ? That's crazy. Like, so they don't care about that. They're not talking about anything like that. Like, oh, have y'all noticed? Oh, we're talking about this becomes viral, and all of a sudden the feds are like, we have to do all of this on just like looking for something. Like they're not bringing any charges yet. They don't have anything concrete, it seems like, but raids, wild raids, like let's lock up the kids.
Yeah, no, that's the problem with it. People are going to focus on that. The feds is all of a sudden going to focus on that. If this has now become, to me, sensationalized when the actual whole, like you said, there's assault here. This man can be possibly dangerous, has a history of being dangerous, but people want to focus on all of these things that are already placed in the world as something bad. Being gay is something terrible. So like you were saying, I love how you juxtaposed that, Natalie, where you said, okay, Lil Rod said this, Cassie said this. On, like, if we being honest, Cassie's whole life, 10 years of her being with this man is in these documents, and it's terrible. Hotel footage, being dragged, being beat, being locked up, in a home, being forced to do drugs, to have sex, and whatever the case may be. And then Lil Rod saying, this man, I watched gay sex and it hurt my feelings. But people immediately went over there, and because the trigger word is gay, right? That's a trigger word. So everybody has to focus on it. Sexual assault is not a trigger word. This man,
because they don't empathize.
Me. Yeah, they don't
empathize with women being sexually assaulted, but they do empathize with your gay shit hurt my feelings. Like, I'm really like seeing like how dare how they are though. They like, it's the way they hate Jada Pinkett Smith because she's ruined Will. She's emasculated, destroyed his legacy. Because destroyed to them, a Black man's legacy has everything to do with what performance of masculinity they're giving, right? If Will Smith is no longer in their eyes this like untouchable, powerful Black man that has the perfect Black wife who loves him, the idea that they think of him as second to Jada, or that he's at the mercy of Jada's feelings, ruins him. So they fucking hate. So for like, that's it. It's like they don't care. What they're upset about is the idea that this Diddy, one of their Black eye, where they put a place on a pedestal, has been ruined for them with the stain of homosexuality.
What's even funnier about that, those same people who say that have quote unquote emasculated Will Smith himself throughout his whole entire career. So I find that extra funny. And I'm like, y'all have always said that he was a punk, he wasn't this, he wasn't that. Now all of a sudden Jada Pinkett Smith is doing that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I heard y'all this whole time doing what y'all say that she does, or maybe even worse. But hey, whatever.
Yeah, so I agree with you. And just jumping off of what you said, I feel like there's like a historical issue here where the performance of masculinity is one of, and this crosses races, but I think is a particular issue with our community, is one of violence. And so if a man is performing masculinity against his significant other through violence, that is almost like, oh, well, he went too far, but it's kind of like you as a woman have to accept that your man might assault you or he might hurt you or something like that because he's had a tough time. And it's really hard out here for Black men. So don't try to take his masculinity away from him. Right. And so we, in a way, I think because Will Smith always performed this kind of like fatherly or funny role, he was always teased for not being masculine enough. But the masculinity that he did have was the fact that he was the head of this family. And so when it was known before this whole Jada Pinkett Smith thing that Will Smith was cheating on his wife, and that is just something that for some reason we've all forgotten. Before it came out about August Alsina, it was known that Will Smith repeatedly cheated on Jada Pinkett Smith all the time. There's an allegation that he had an open affair with Margot Robbie. In public, there's a picture of them like all hugged up together inappropriately while he's married to Jada Pinkett Smith, to the point where people were happily saying, oh, they have an open marriage. So the idea of them having an open marriage was okay as long as it was Will Smith being the masculine one,
patriarchy,
the scion of this family, but sleeping, around
Because
on his wife.
patriarchy tells them that that's the reward, like that. But a lot of them believe, a lot of Black men believe that the reward for being successful is that, especially if you're considered providing for the family or the woman, is that that's his right. Like that should come with it. You should be okay with that, that he should be able to sleep with whomever. Like that is a benefit. They see that as a benefit of success or being at the top of this. So that's fine for them. And saying it when they were calling it open marriage, what they really meant, like that's just their way of not wanting you to put the cheater stain on him. Ultimately, what it is they're fine with that. They don't need to mention that because they don't think that they don't think that that counts as an act of misconduct against her. Like that's not where the harm's at. He should be allowed to do that. That is totally fine. Open marriage is just so they, in their way, what they're saying is, she's okay with that. There's nothing here for you to hold against him. That's nothing to criticize him for. And so they leave that up because they don't have it. And it's a bunch of this. We know a bunch of, you'll see T.I. cheats on Tiny and refuses to let Tiny be able to be with anybody. He thought she was talking to Floyd that one time. He lost his fucking mind. Like that is a regular thing of them feeling like, because they feel like as a man, they should be able to sleep with whomever. And God forbid they're successful. They're the Black man that managed to do well and blah, blah, blah. Of course, he should be able to sleep with women. Delaney.
I just think that like Black men or just men, patriarchy is like shaking right now. Like everyone's like, who am I? Like men are asking themselves like, what does it mean for me to be a man? What is masculinity? They're like, damn, I can't beat my wife no more. Damn, I can't have 4 secret wives around the block. And that's not socially acceptable. Damn, like I'm not getting paid enough at my job, so I really can't be the head of the household. So like, what the hell am I good for? There's so many, and it's making Black men are just holding on to this idea of this like rich patriarch, which is why they have such an allegiance to Jay-Z, to Diddy, to all of these people. And it makes me like sad because it kind of reminds me of politics in this way that like, none of the things that people are saying to Black people around like capitalism and go for your dreams, none of it is materializing in everyday Black people's lives. You literally get nothing by aligning yourselves with these people. Just like when Joe Biden is saying things and he's talking about the Black community and Black people are like, we gotta believe in Joe. We gotta believe in Joe. But their lives look the exact same as they did from before him being elected. There's something about empty platitudes that like people are just eating up because we can't physically touch anything. This like fake trickle down shit is not working.
Girl, talk about it.
Well, and this organization, Black Men Build, they talk about this often about like, they say new men must be born. There has to be a new type of man that isn't like, it's not dependent upon violence and exploitation and capital. Like, damn nigga, like, do you want to read a book? Like, do you want to ride a bike? Like, who do you want to be outside of violence and outside of capital? Who are you?
But that's the problem is they see it from every direction. Like they're getting that from every direction, right? It's not like, and because I know some people, I know there will be Black men or men who hear this and immediately get upset because they feel like it's an indictment. And it's like, it's not an indictment. No one is blaming you that it's your fault, right? You're growing up in a patriarchal society and you're being indoctrinated to believe and to perform that from every direction, right? Like, it's not just like women, all of us have been indoctrinated in this society. So you're hearing that constantly regurgitated and reinforced from every direction. So like Black men are chasing that because from the time they were Black boys, they didn't even get to be Black boys and Black childhood. All it's ever been about is you're supposed to be raising strong men, and strong men are supposed to be performing masculinity and trying to achieve these like goals. And there never is really a focus on how they can be individuals, how you can learn to be a full person, the array of emotions. Like none of that is, you know what I mean? That's not what's painted to be that should be the focus. You know what I mean? That's not what's cool.
I think what's like interesting about that is that even then in childhood, Black men there's like a lack of, there's a lack of like emotional education that Black men get and all of those things. But I would say that the strongest people in the house would be that Black man's mama and his sister. Like,
who also believe in patriarchy.
Yes, sure. But the way that the strength, the way that Black women and Black daughters have to be like strong and these like anchors in the family. I mean, you would think we would be like itching for the powers of patriarchy, like, because we're the ones that are actually doing the work of it, or the work that they say patriarchy is supposed to be about.
I was gonna say that's why they have such an allegiance to these people like Diddy or like R. Kelly or like Bill Cosby, right? Because they want to be like these people. They've like aspired to be like that their whole lives, and they see these icons and they see them getting attacked for shit that they did, actions that they committed, and it's just like I go back to that Boondock School all the time. Like, what the hell is wrong with you people? Every famous nigga that gets arrested is not Nelson Mandela. The government conspires to put a lot of innocent Black men in jail on fallacious charges. Diddy is not one of those men. Y'all know niggas can sing. What happened to standards? What happened to bare minimums? Oh, you a fan of Diddy? You want to help? You want to help Diddy? Get some counsel for Diddy. Get some older woman. Get his camcorder. Don't pretend that nigga is a hero though. Like that's real. Like each like one of these people, you can apply that to Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, Chris Brown, so many different fucking people.
OJ Simpson.
OJ.
Wake it up.
Bullshit. It's like you don't need to have like an allegiance to these men because you want to be like them, because you aspire to be a billionaire and a millionaire. You're like aspiring for capital. No, like you don't do that. Like every
Black men become the biggest conspiracy theorists when their heroes get attacked.
Bill Cosby.
Immediate, they turn to MAGA 3000.
Kelly was about to buy ABC. Diddy was about to buy GDE. I don't know.
He sent an email to the De Leon or whoever the drink company he was working with, and he challenged them, and so since he did that, because he did it as a Black man, that's why they're going down and they're coming against him. We saw what happened to Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels was stepping into territory where he was about to purchase and start buying mics for every nigga that we know that all around the world. And you see
put
what
the
happened.
mics down.
And he died.
Oh my
like people will really go out here and try to make it just for these terrible people who are literally causing conversations in the Black community that are problematic. And they'll try to make like us try to be like, okay, it is a Black man and we shouldn't. I don't give a damn if it was a Black woman. You wrong. Okay. The evidence is here. The evidence is here. Like if we can have these conversations. And one thing about it, I will point out, I love Black men. I like my man to be nice and Black. I just love Black men. But Black men they're not a monolith. And just because one is a celebrity, we can't automatically have an allegiance to this person, right? I don't like that's a requirement for us. As a Black woman, I'm gonna hold my Black man down. I'm gonna be his piece, but he gotta be mine too. I shouldn't have to be walking around here and just because Diddy is doing this and Diddy, you're not Diddy. Like you don't even have Diddy money. I'm not like, you don't even stop having this conversation with me about this, first of all. Secondly, if I can't trust anybody, any Black man or woman who would sit here and tell me that R. Kelly, Diddy, Bill Cosby, or anybody else of those sorts are these heroes that we must ride with because they were about to buy big companies or because they're billionaires or because whatever. Absolutely love Black men that are winning, but that Black man who is winning could definitely be a terrible person and his actions are bad. We can call a thing a thing. I don't care how much money he got in his pockets. If he got to go to jail, baby, he got to go to jail. Okay?
I think, there's a way to me to be always on the side of Black people. It like the rationale is a reason why the court writes opinions, right? Like their opinions, there are concurrences, there are dissents, there are different grounds. It would be different to me if what Black people were saying was, yes, Diddy has done all these things. Diddy needs to be accountable. We need to like have a discussion about how what pedestals we put people on, what behavior we call out, who we discard when we first learn about exploitation. How, if we were having those kind of conversations and saying, but I don't support the arm of the criminal state, the criminal justice system coming in or something like that. If they were making those kinds of arguments, like there are arguments to be made, but that's not what's happening. Like it's not Black people. It's never, that we're making the analysis of, okay, we really should divest from the criminal system. It's a problem the way the criminal system jumps in to deal with us and handle all of our things, whether they've been invited or not. Because to me, that's important. Like all of the people who we're dealing with, like Cassie and them made conscious decisions to pursue civil charges. A lot of people don't even want to be involved with criminal cases. That's not the route they went with. That's not what happened. White federal government sees Black discussions having lawsuits filed, all these things happen, and decides we're going to come here with the mighty arm of the criminal justice system. And if they were making that argument, I'd be like, okay, I could at least understand that, like whether or not, but they're not making that. It's very hee, ha, ha, let the system do whatever, but gay. But stop that gay shit.
Yeah.
It's
I think
terrible.
what's really nuts is like, well, I don't actually think it's nuts. I am not always rooting for Black people. Not at all. I also like am not always trying to be on the side of Black people. It's not happening because niggas be wrong as fuck. Like really wrong, really violent, like really complicit in systems. Right now, what's happening, in Palestine, they've got Black women up talking about this situation.
The
like
fucking U.S. Secretary of Defense, Black man. Yeah.
Like this, I think we really have to like chip away at this allegiance to Black people who are doing us the worst way. Like it just has to stop. And I feel like when Issa Rae, when she got up there and she was like, I'm rooting for everybody Black. That's what everybody says now. And it makes my chest ache.
I say it.
Hey, and I'm gonna be honest. You also say, you gonna hold your Black man down, and you gonna be his, you gonna be his
Black
piece.
man.
You gonna hold up. But what I'm saying, you know what I mean? I'm not holding shit down. I gotta go. Things start getting crazy. But what I'm saying though,
he has to be my piece too. That's the thing. Very clear. I'm rooting for Black people. I absolutely am. But when your Black card gets revoked, if you think that I have to be, it gets revoked. The Black people that I'm rooting for, what I consider Black is it's different. Sometimes everybody don't align with Blackness. Okay. Sometimes people move in whiteness. So I'm rooting for everybody Black. And but that's why I see people who have these talking points, patriarchy. I believe that that's drenched in racism and whiteness. But a lot of Black men adopt that and think that they can move on and around, and women too. Like we have been, like you were saying, Olay, indoctrinated into the system. So when I say I'm looking for my piece, baby, I am, but he has to be my piece too. It has to go both ways. We're not just writing to get drugged and be like, you see all this work, all these, all these scars I got from this relationship because Kevin Samuels told my man that's what I need to do. And I'm just 30 pounds too much, and I'm 33 years old. So I'm just too damn old. Eggs ain't no good. So I had to, no. My man has to respect me and I have to respect him. But in this space, I think, there are Black people, like I was just saying, there are Black people that are no good, like Diddy. There are Black people that are no good, like R. Kelly. I don't care I think R. Kelly made great music, but you're a terrible person, and we should be able to have those conversations.
But they weren't born no good. They became, like, that's the thing, right? I feel like our society is really focused on criticizing and condemning the Black man and forsaking the Black boy, as though that isn't where you need to be going and addressing your attention and resources and care. Like, but the reality is, and I like Bell Hooks taught me this. We're not, my girl, we're not giving Black boys the tools to be able to do anything else. It's like Black boys are only allowed. Black boys are never considered boys from the minute that they are brought into the household, man of the house, trying to be a man. What's a Black man supposed to be? And what that means is they're not allowed, like, the array of emotions and feelings and allowed to have that, like, space to parse that out at all. The only thing that is allowed of them is to act out, is to be aggressive. Though that is what is considered masculine in those traits. And then you're a boy. The only way for you to express yourself, that you're allowed to express yourself as a Black boy or a Black man, also gets you criminalized, gets you considered like you are disruptive, lands you with a bunch of other different negative perceptions. And that's the tools. You're not being given the tools. You're not being given the range to be a fully fleshed person, to be a considerate, caring partner, and all these different things. And then one day you wake up, you're a man, and everybody's like, fuck you, bad man. You're a bad man. This is a bad guy. But it's like, what did you expect them to become?
I got something to say about that because black boys are not being raised.
Yeah.
Black boys are not being raised. So it's so interesting. You hear this all the time. You hear parents say, well, I didn't have to do that much for my boy. And this is it. Like, what do you mean? Because you didn't do anything. You didn't teach them a lot of lessons or anything like that. You just told them to go out there, not cry, be hard all the time, deal with issues with violence. That's what you taught them. You didn't course correct. You didn't do any of those things whatsoever. I think a lot of young Black boys are simply not being raised. They're not being emotionally regulated. They're not doing any of these things. The boys will be boys. They're supposed to be that way. They're supposed to act that way. And then when you become an adult, just like you said, then you're hit with all this stuff. I mean, I have so many friends. It's so interesting. And this is really unfortunate because I think a lot of people I grew up with are still 16 years old. And I'm not being funny about that. And some of the things that I hear is just nuts. Whether somebody really close to me sitting there telling me, my wife made me cheat. How'd she do that? And I'm sitting there, I'm in the truck arguing with them. And I'm sitting here, everybody is against me. Everybody disagrees. And I'm like, y'all are nuts. y'all are actually nuts. And this is something y'all would have said when we was in school, we was in high school, when we were in 9th grade, saying stupid stuff. And now we're 30-something years old.
I'm thinking about what Jashawn said. I'm also thinking about something Delaney said because she dropped the name of Jay-Z several times. And I think that all of this kind of ties in together. So first of all, let me just say that as a person that's older than all of you, you all are giving me a lot of hope for this discourse around Blackness, masculinity, and capitalism that my generation, which is older millennials to Gen X, kind of adopted and accepted that the way forward, the way to freedom, the way to full independence and autonomy was through finances, capitalism, earning, getting to the top of the financial food chain, everything else be damned. And what you guys are doing is echoing what we learned during the civil rights movement under Malcolm X. He was very clear. And I'm pulling here from an article from the Washington Post that I read recently, where he was just basically like, these Black celebrities are in a different category than the Black masses. They are not qualified to speak on our issues. That goes for Bill Cosby. That goes for Jay-Z. That goes for all of these people that, they might not even be meaning any harm or anything like that, but they cannot speak to your good or to your benefit because they are separate and apart from the daily struggles and issues that Black people have to face on a daily basis. And I think that if we look at like that, that live stream that Jay-Z did or whatever, he was mad at people calling him a Black capitalist and everything. That's just an ignorance. Let's really think about the fact that what Black boys have to look up to in popular culture. And this is not because I'm a public defender. So I'm like, get your money how you can get it, right? Like that's how I feel about a lot of my clients. And I understand structural poverty and things like that. But let's really talk about skill sets here. Who Black boys are supposed to look up to as the pinnacle of Black excellence and Black success is somebody who started by harming his community, right? Selling drugs to the people within his community, deadly drugs that ruined and decimated entire communities and lives because it was out of necessity, right? That little Black boy did not grow up to harm his community, but he needed to make a way for himself. And then what did he do? He scraped and he scrounged and stepped on whoever he needed to step on in order to get to the pinnacle of success that he is. And he also had a talent that he knew how to marshal to his benefit. He's an extremely talented rapper. Does that give him the gravitas or the know-how of how to tell Black people to move forward through society? How many of us have the ability to rap? How many of us have the ability to move weight safely and not end up in prison and then turn that money to invest and then become, a CEO married to Beyonce making $1 billion, right? And so we do have those people that are in our society that are our role models to look to and that want to be our role models, but yet we keep going in the media to commentary from Jay-Z on Colin Kaepernick kneeling and him saying that we're past kneeling and things like that. Why are we asking Jay-Z about this? What is his qualification to tell us anything about our community? And so I feel like we are looking to capitalism to save us, and we're looking to the scions of capitalism to save us. And let me just be totally honest here. I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to keep my money, and I'm not trying to give it all to Uncle Sam. All right. So that probably makes me a capitalist. It also means that I may not be the person that you want to come to for how do we better the community? How do we fix these things? How do we do this? And how do we do that? And we might need to recognize that in the people that we're looking to for all of this guidance. And then maybe we won't be so torn down every single time that, you know, the real world comes for them. So maybe we won't feel like, oh no, don't come after Diddy because he's our only hope. Don't come after Jay-Z because he's our only hope. Let's be really, really honest here. They're not qualified to be the leaders of our community. And then as soon as we see that, we will start putting them where they need to be, which is entertainment and entertainment only.
Yo,
I agree with that, because it's all the time I hear things where people are just like, oh, did you hear what they said? And I'm like, okay, I'll listen to it. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Actually, I don't even know why I just listened, because I actually don't care, because I ain't got nothing useful to say anyway. I don't even know why you had the motherfucker on a pedestal. I have no idea. And we constantly have these conversations. I'm like, nigga, I don't care. Like, I simply don't care. And we sit there and we have conversations, you know, have people who will sit there and, you know, let's say, you know, I'm just going to throw this man's name out there, Dr. Umar or something like that. Like, he'll say, you know, something correct out of 1,000 million things that he might say. And then, you know, a friend will be like, you know, we need people like him. And I'm like, but what about all these other things, right?
Thank you.
Oh, no, we can have other leaders. We can have other people. I'm just telling you, it ain't that nigga. So I hate when we have conversations about that.
Yeah, like Candace Owens, they'll be like, from the Breakfast Club. I'm listening to people be like, oh man, I mean, hate her if you want to. What y'all like to do is y'all hate, she have the message, but y'all just hate the messenger. No, this hasn't been online. Disrespecting us, dropping terrible points about Black people as a Black person, literally grifting, right? And you guys just because she said this one damn little thing on the Breakfast Club, and all, but Charlamagne was just like, you see, we can have these conversations and just, no, you didn't even challenge her. There are so many things that this girl said that was wrong that you guys aren't even having this conversation about. Like, y'all not really holding her accountable. See what I'm talking about? I don't need to have a leader for her because she's Black.
Do you know how many of them comments I've seen from them telling me, saying, oh, y'all just don't like her because she holds Black people accountable? And that's when I realized, like, Black people saying, I was like, you fucking niggas believe that, like, I'm like, y'all really are white supremacy's most valuable puppets. Like, you really believe, like, they were holding Black people accountable. In other words, blaming Black people for the structural and systemic problems that are against us. It's insane to me. Like, hearing the shit they would sound like holding them accountable. Anyway, child.
No, that's really offensive. I'm sorry. Let me just say that. That is when Black people say that about ourselves, like, oh, this, you know, person, this right-wing person is just holding Black people accountable. You literally sound like a slave to me. That is what you sound like to me. You sound like a slave. Like, you're like, oh, she's got to get us. The overseer, who was often Black, has to get us back in line so that we walk the line and we don't get in trouble anymore, and the master's not mad at us, and we're respectable, and everybody likes us, and everything is okay. We're not shaking the table. So she needs to tell us how to behave because of her proximity to whiteness, right? Like, that's, we all know that Candace Owens is steeped in whiteness, and that just is what it is. And her proximity to whiteness, she is then turning around and telling the Black community, this is what the whites think about you, and this is how you can make it so that they don't hate you and think that you're a bunch of anymore, right? Like, it's so extremely offensive whenever Black people tell me that Candace Owens is just trying to hold the Black community accountable. Because when does she ever hold the white community accountable for the oppression for which they visit upon the Black community? It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Not never until they don't let her get a COVID test.
Yeah.
Oh, I think a great point to make. I see it all the time. I'm just like, watch when she steps out of line. When I say out of line with her own audience, and see what happens. She gets lit up. She gets lit up. They only like her when they're perpetuating that bullshit. That's the only time. Once she says anything,
we save her. We saved her, right? This is what it is. When she was doing all that talking, and the white people were like, her audience was like, yes, yes. As soon as she said something that was remotely like, okay, y'all, okay, white people, now I have to judge you. They was like, get this ER out of here. Get this out of here. We don't want nothing to do her. And then where did she come to? She started doing a tour, baby, on Black spaces, in Black places, because that's where just like Kanye West sat here and said that slavery was a choice. And then what happened? He started doing a tour back in Black spaces, particularly in the Black Christianity, the Black church, because he knew that's where he would be forgiven and taken in. This is what happens. All of these niggas will be on the white side of things, sharing white rhetoric online that is very disruptive, that is that can be very damaging. But white people can say, "Well, Kanye said it. Well, Candace said it." They have these, they use it.
My token
Nicki
said
Minaj said it. Yes, and then when stuff hit the fan, they'll come to back on the Black side, and here we are for a pillow to help them land on.
That is like completely true. I made a video called like the confusing nature of Black conservatives. I had Bellamy J be interviewed for that, and this was like 2 years ago. They said that watch, if Candace Owens does something that Ben Shapiro doesn't like, she's gonna get the fuck out of there. It's gonna be over with.
Yes. She supported She supported Palestine, and she got fired. That's it. Mm-hmm. She supported. She saw the atrocities happen in Palestine, like any decent human being, and said something very milquetoast. It wasn't even like from the rivers to the sea. She just said something very like, basic, and she got fired, and now she's on the Breakfast Club. That what I'm saying? So it's a grip.
And here's the thing, right? Every Black, I really, really hate. I hate when I hear Black people be like, "Oh, well, she's intelligent." I'm talking about any coon, anybody who's like actively decided to be a fucking sellout ass, like, and they're like, "Oh, they're intelligent. Oh, they're smart. They're this." I hate when we pretend that there's anything exceptional about like deciding to be the one nigga prepared to speak out against the rest. Like that is a job opportunity that is available to us all. Every Black person that has ever been in white rooms knows that you are always provided the opportunity to decide to be the nigga that's gonna speak out against the collective in order to benefit yourself as an individual. But here's the problem with that: the price you pay is too fucking high. Okay, the price for cooning is way too high, because at the end of the day, you are a tool. You are a tool, and you are only so useful to them as you parrot back what they say. Because what you're not there. Let me make it clear: Candace Owens, or any of them are not here for us. They're not here, and I don't mean just not here for us. I mean, they're not speaking to us. They're for white people amongst themselves to say, hey, we have this one Black person that's saying this. So they could go, that's not racist. This Black person said that. And we all know that, and we know how it works. It's why they have the right has their avatars. They have Caitlyn Jenner is willing to speak out against trans people. They have, they always have them. They have the Tommy Laurens willing to be there against the women and blah, blah, blah. They know what it is. But the problem with that is, you will be gone. The moment you don't serve them, they get rid of you. And there's always a glass ceiling on what you can accomplish. How many Ben Carsons, Herman Cains, all of these have we seen come and go? You know what I mean? Stacey Dash, Omarosa, y'all do this song and dance. And the next thing you know, you're out on your fucking ass begging for some form of community that you've done nothing but condemn. And here's the fucking problem. We keep inviting them back into the fold. And it's It's upsetting to me, because the reason is, we are not condemning structures and systemic issues. It's like, we don't recognize. It's easy for them to re-embrace Candace Owens, because everything else out of her mouth is bigotry against other groups, bigotry that we are fine with, because we have not recognized how that bigotry is directly combined, like intertwined, works with white supremacy against us. That is really what the ultimate issue is there.
Someone mentioned Kanye West a little bit ago, and that glass ceiling is actually what I think kicked Kanye's ass.
Yes.
Is because he managed to make $1 billion, and he thought that because he had that much money, because that is what had been told to him and everybody else, that he could do what the hell he wanted to do. And they said, hey, 1 second, you are still a Negro. Yes. Sit the fuck down. That's what happened. And I feel like he was so close. he was so close to having an actual analysis about this, about, I would say, the means of production, not having access to the actual materials to make the things that he wanted to make. He almost had an analysis around like the 1%, and then he got real anti-Semitic.
I was just about to say, which is a lot of what is, by the way, fueling Candace Owens stuff. Like that is a lot of what's happening here. It's not that she like this is too fair to her. It's actually she's seeing what happened in Gaza, and that's why she's on the right side of things. She's on the right side of things because she's been an anti-Semitic person. Like, she's been spewing anti-Semitism. So that was always her, like, the line she was fucking treading, right? Yep. And you got, like, this is the wrong time for banning them. You know what I mean? She tried, and that's the thing. And you know what? It's really harmful. And I had said this too, Charlamagne. My son, like, is incredibly harmful because from his perspective, he was like, oh, we had her talking about the things like she's making this being pro-Palestine or whatever have you. I'm like, that's fucking worse. To take this white supremacist woman whose whole job, what she does, what she's made a career of, intentionally, knowingly, she's not stupid or unaware or understanding the implications. This is a white supremacist fucking puppet who at least Black people know and recognize as a white supremacist puppet and know to disregard her and discount her. But if you bring her up to talk about the few things that you think we will like, what you do is legitimize her and present her as something else to these people who are not familiar with all of what she's saying and what have you. And they think, oh, okay, I can listen to her. Oh, she makes sense in some things. And now they decide they're going to listen to her, give more credence, more deference, and pay attention to her. And that's way more fucking harmful. Like, it's actually harmful for you to bring up there and have her talking about what you think won't upset people rather than have her be the white supremacist she always is.
And I think we have to be clear. Like, Candace Owens is not pro-Palestine. Candace Owens is not hoping for the freedom of and liberation of Palestinian people. Candace Owens is an anti-Semite. She does not want to make a distinction between Zionism and Judaism. It's not happening because she is a white supremacist. Like, we've just got to be super, super clear about that. So when people bring her on, whoever it is, Charlamagne, they've got to have that in mind, because between Candace Owens, Kanye West, and other people, these long tropes around Jewish folks and money, it's getting real close. Like, Black people, and Black people have an interesting relationship, I believe, with Jewish people. Like, there's a long history in the civil rights movement. And then there's also a really sad history in New York around property management and exploitation against immigrants and Black people in New York. There's a lot of complication there. But I think that we're towing a line around anti-Semitism that people like Candace Owens and Kanye West are pushing us further to the side that we don't want to be on as a people, as a community.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't realize, like, what I've realized is Black people, Chris Rock has a joke about this, that Black people, he's like, Black people don't we don't got time to make distinctions between white people. White is white. Like, he's like, if you're Romanian, you're Romanian cracker. Like, that's what he said. Like, they're all white. And for us, I think that is what it is. So it's like, it's hard for us to see, if we see a lot of Black people see Jewish people as white people. They are white people that they see. They are often interacting with them where they are in positions of power over them. So it's like, I see white people that are more powerful than me. I'm experiencing dynamics where I am being oppressed. They don't see how being against Jewish people or being anti-Semitic or spreading these Jewish tropes could ever be a tenet of white supremacy, because they see these as white people. And so because those are completely divorced in their mind, they don't get it. So it's easy to unwittingly lean into anti-Semitism, especially if Kanye and people you have deferred to and been calling a genius for 10 plus years are the ones feeding it to you.
Yeah. And they could take a Black billionaire down. What could they do to you? Like, that's the type of shit that they be saying.
True. I got one quick thing to say. We're kind of getting close to this. Is like, I was watching a TikTok today and it pissed me all the way off, and I immediately turned it off because it was one of those type of TikToks where you have Black people saying egregious things, like egregious, and I'm looking in the comments and the first thing I see is nothing but white people is just like, yes, personal responsibility and all these. I'm like, that's how you know you fucked up. I want each and every one of those Black people who made that video and said that bullshit, go look at the damn comments and see who cheering this shit on the most. I'm telling you every time.
And they don't care because because it's always been, think about it. When you think about it, we've always had a willingness, because we recognize how hard it is and what Black people have to do and what you have to do to become a common. We've always had a willingness to accept the idea that you have to harm like even other Black people in order to get ahead, right? Because that's kind of what America teaches you. If you're an American, whether you're Black or not, you're an American. America teaches you, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, do what you have to do, get over whatever, dog eat dog world. And that's always been lauded as success. So if as a community, if as a culture, it's okay for us to know, like, think about how much we talk about like the crack epidemic and what that's done and how that decimated the community. And also in the same breath, we celebrate figures that we know participated with no like regard to that, because we understand, or we're fine with recognizing how that happened. So of course, on a lesser scale, they're going to be Black people willing to coon online, like who aren't even seeing, to them, like they're not seeing the real world effects of the rhetoric and what they're putting out. They're not realizing, they're not taking the time to consider how that's affecting like laws and policy and social consciousness. They're like, ooh, engagement, money, in order. That's why not only are so many people willing to grift, but that they're willing to grift in plain sight with the knowledge that they're going to do a pivot and say, sorry, whatever, I did all this harm, and it will be fine because we're cool with that.
I just think also that the capitalism, the way that capitalism functions, you do have to hurt people. So yeah, we are taught that like it don't matter what you gotta do, you gotta go get it. And that under capitalism, that's not the wrong teaching. Anyone who is making $1 billion, people that are disgustingly wealthy are hurting somebody somewhere, whether that be in sweatshops that you never see, whether that be in sweatshops domestically, like that is happening. And so I think like a conversation around systems and systems change is where we should be heading when we're talking about causing pain in our communities and why we've got to do what we've got to do. I think we're like this close, like close.
With the money part of it though, like if I were to right now say, okay, start changing how I speak online, what I stand for, which is going to be Black, Black success, Black forward movement, holding Black people accountable. If I were to do like because Candace Owens, she started off on the left. She started off being pro-Black. She started off that way. So a lot of people don't really know about her, but she grifted because the coin was there. So as you begin to grift, the coin is there, but there can only be room for one person like that, right? Like one, like, so they don't want 10 of it. They don't want 10 of them, but they need that one Black talking head. And and she can be the one. Our favorite activist, right? Sean King, I like to say, because I can, but I like to say even with him, that man steals, does, in my opinion, because this is mine and mine only, because I know he likes to come after people. But what I'll say is like him as a representation for Black people. Do you know in his comment section, and even if it's to me stolen content that he takes credit for, under his comment section is a whole bunch of white soccer moms saying, this is why we love him. This is why we need him. Constantly, they will give this man money to be the Black representative for their white guilt. I watch Sean King but that money is supposed to go towards building this, building that. And he never produces it, but they still trust this man as their Black representation to say, if Sean said it, then it's 100% true. So we got to be careful on both sides of it, because I feel like we have that. He, to me, functions in whiteness as well. Not only what he looked like, but he functions in whiteness. And it's questionable, but like we have that on both sides. So I see that with Candace Owens, but I also think that we have that in this space where people are wolves in sheep clothing, however they say that.
That needs to be the first thing people talk about when they talk about Candace. She's a grifter. That needs to be the first thing. Yeah. The fact that it's like, I mean, we can talk about how, she's a white supremacist. Yes, she does all these things, but it's in the context of her being a fucking grifter.
Right.
Like she's only saying these things and doing these things because she's grifting. She was not like this on the jump. She's not like
pays to grift.
Yeah,
and it's so egregious. The most egregious shit that happens to me all the time that makes me see red is when a random white person or non-Black person props up and randomly tells me a Black person that I need to listen to.
Oh my God.
They'll be like, have you heard of Thomas Sowell? Have you ever heard of Candace Owens? She's really smart. I'm smarter than her. You don't need to tell me that.
They be in the comments on Olay and Friends telling me which niggas I should have on my show. Like, they're like, you should have, I hate all of you. You should have this black person I like on here. And I'm like, and I won't. And just because you mentioned them,
Exactly.
now they're on a list. Like, of people who never
now they're
come
on the
here.
shit list.
Right, because now I know.
You know, I'm thinking of the thread between Kanye and Candace Owens that you guys brought up just before my dog started freaking out. And that thread of anti-Semitism amongst these media personalities and celebrities and people in the upper echelon that are Black is very common, because it's this whole mentality of that somehow Jewish people are the ones that are holding all the purse strings and the ones that are stamping down the Black people. And outside of the complexities, because I'm a girl from New York, I'm from Queens, right? Outside of the complexities of the real estate market in New York, which is a very real issue, for the most people, most Black people will never interact with a Jewish person in this country.
Right.
This very Jewish people live in certain enclaves that most Black people just don't live in and don't really know any Jewish people, yet they have all of these comments. And Candace Owens and Kanye West are just two of the worst examples of them. But I hate to kick somebody that doesn't really have anything to do with anything, but Jay-Z just comes up again. Many of his lyrics are supremely anti-Semitic under the guise of, oh, I'm giving them their props, but it's just like, oh, we're going to make money like the Jews. We're going to control everything like the Jews. And it's this, I don't know, it's this theme that is a little disturbing, because it's almost like a divide and conquer mindset, because the systemic structural white supremacy that was put in place was not put in place by Jewish people. It was put in place by your white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And so it's very interesting that they have become the scapegoat, right? And the other and the other interplay is, of course, Christianity, which makes it very difficult, because there's almost like this hierarchy where now you have a fraction within, or a schism within the Black community, between those that support, Palestine, those that support Israel. So if you're more, traditionally Christian, you're supposed to support Israel. So you have a lot of like Black commentators with that. And then also, if you go into Black churches, some of the commentary around, and this is someone who grew up in a Black church, some of the commentary around Jewish people is extremely anti-Semitic and would not be, for the general public to even hear. And so I think there is this, again, divide and conquer mindset that we have to be very, very much aware of, because Jewish people do deal with some structural suppression in the country that is not coming from Black people. However, we've kind of turned on each other as this, like, we're all fighting to get to the top of capitalism. And so the Jewish people are keeping me from getting on top, not the people that put the structure in place.
I think it's hard for Black people to see that sometimes, because Black people are always on the worst end of things. So like in the sense of like insult, stereotypes or generalizations or perceptions or how people discuss us. For Black people, like the reason Jay-Z can say a bunch of things that are actually anti-Semitic tropes, but I'm sure in his mind he believes that they're compliments, and so do the other Black people that receive it, or even like, is because they like, or even like I think of Cardi B's lyrics when she be like, my lawyer is a Jew, he gonna chew up all the charges, like, because how a lot of those stereotypes function in real life is the way like Black people can see how like why when Asian people have a problem with the stereotype of like the perfect, the model minority, that myth, because it's like all our stereotypes are criminal, dumb, angry, baby mom, everything about us are so fucking disparaging that it's hard to really sympathize with, oh, your stereotype is you make a lot of money, you're good lawyers,
or
you're
stereotype
smart,
is like,
you know what I
you're
mean?
good at math and stuff like
right,
that.
like I think of how many times, right? Like I've seen Black people, like I've as a PD, like people, like other Black people receive you as their public defender and they are skeptic, they don't have any faith in your abilities as an attorney, because they believe, like, think about it, Cardi B even saying that is a more representative of your average New Yorker that will have interactions with the criminal system, and the way it's perceived, like having a Jew is a better lawyer, is automatically, because of that perception and because they're having these experiences. So I think that makes it hard for them to realize, like, oh, it is an anti-Semitic trope to believe Jewish people, that is a white supremacist narrative that Jewish people secretly run the world and blah, blah, blah. And it's used to justify shit like the Holocaust and people having these like discriminatory beliefs against Jews. It's hard to see that when you are feeling like, as Black people, we would pay for a nice sounding stereotype when you're not paying attention. You know what I mean? When you don't realize, because Black stereotypes, not only are Black stereotypes just as harmful in application and stuff like that, but they're like on its face. Like you don't have to even make the nuanced argument and step back and be like, let me show you how this will work and like how this works for everybody else. Is like on its face is like, you know why you don't want to be considered a criminal or dumb or blah, blah, blah versus, yeah, I think that'd be happening.
Well, the only positive stereotypes about us come from physicality, and that leads to violence against us, right? And so a lot of the times when I interact with white people or non-Black people of color, whatever the term is these days, I don't know. But whenever I interact with non-Black people and they think that they're paying me a compliment by, oh, you're so strong, you're so fast, or something sexual in nature, right? Because they love to find us attractive and dehumanize us at the same time. It's hard to explain to people that, like, I know that you think you're paying me a compliment on my, sexual virility or my physical prowess or whatever it is that I look like to you, but this has been a tool of oppression of my people. So I'd like for you to interact with me as a real person. And I think if we turn around and look at Jewish and Asian people the same way and say like, saying that the paranoia that was created around Jewish people, saying that they were running everything and the Rothschild conspiracy and all that type of stuff led literally to people trying to exterminate them because they were so afraid of them being in control of everything, then we would be more mindful of that. And then also remember that we're afraid of them controlling, but we think that it's a default for white people to control and we want to reach their level. We do not want to usurp them. So, I think we should always think about that in terms of like our community self-esteem.
I think that's a beautiful final word. I think that's a good final word to leave us off on, Natalie. I appreciate this. Thank y'all so much for coming and doing Olay and Friends.
Absolutely.